Hello, I am live. This is Dr. Mia Lueth. It is 10:35 a.m. Eastern Time, New York, USA, and it is January 7th, 2026. Um, I'm not going to apologize for anything I put up here, but I am going to say yesterday was a very difficult day for me, more difficult than normal because every day for me is difficult. But I had an extra bad day yesterday. Uh, because my bandmate and friend Doug Travisano, who found out a few months ago that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, stopped doing chemotherapy recently, and he's in hospice. And I went to visit him yesterday. I think it hit me probably around 2:30 or so when I was on the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat. That is probably going to be the last time I see Doug alive. So, cancer. Anyway, yeah, I mean, like that was like a delayed reaction kind of thing because it's like my brain saw it and it recognized just how bad he looks, but it took a little while for me to for it to sink in that I probably won't get a chance to see him again. Uh, it's difficult sometimes for me to get rides, but it's kind of like Death Watch. It sucks. It sucks. Cancer, and he couldn't even communicate yesterday, which was like telltale situation. Anyway, so I had delayed reaction yesterday. Just hit me like around 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm never gonna see Doug again, and it sucks. Okay, so anyway, yes, I'm gonna repeat this one more time. Okay, first things first. There are some uh, Jets fans and followers who are have been going online on X and other places, and you're actually quite literally trying to encourage the Winnipeg Jets to do something illegal. Okay, and there's a lot of confusion about how who gets the first pick in um, at the beginning of the draft. So in the first round draft, hockey, yes, everyone, every every team gets a pick, but it's the order in which they get a pick. So just because your team finishes 32nd, which means last place, does not mean your team is going to get the first pick in the draft. Okay, that's not how this works. So, uh, yeah, first overall pick, and that was something like, yeah, sometimes terminology gets a little confusing too, but I'm telling some people, I mean, you might be some hockey elders who knew about before certain CBM, before certain things changed in the NHL. But yes, there's a lottery. And so just because your team finishes last in the NHL doesn't mean they're guaranteed to pick first in the draft. So maybe those of you who are actually putting that out loud on public, you are actually encouraging the Jets to do something that's actually illegal and against right anything that's happening in the NHL. So I'll just say that, but I know there's confusion, and so that's that. Okay. Uh, when it comes to Chevy, I know I said a few things, but I'm just gonna be honest and tell you that I'm the kind of fan that knows. I've heard many GMs along the way make their pressers at certain times during the year, and I did not expect Chevy to be saying certain things. I mean, you just don't. That's just something you don't do as a GM. Some of it's private, personal information, but you certainly don't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to trade this one," or "I'm put this one on waivers." I mean, you definitely, no one should ever expect a GM to say anything like that at all. So some of the stuff he was saying, it was expected. And he was doing his basic, half season presser, which, the only one thing I can say is maybe because of the fact that it's an Olympic year and because of the fact that the team seems to be slumping altogether. Well, at least they slumped as a team. I mean, you know, I don't think anybody at all, anywhere, could have, foreseen the fact that, you know, five guys or so start, a season or go through a season without the ability to score. I mean, I'm watching Nyquist and it's pretty amazing. And I know people, right? Cole Perfetti, there's others too. But I mean, I'm not saying he's made mistakes in that way. I mean, a lot of people is just, when can he admit that he makes mistakes? Just, hey, he made the best right decision he could make in the summertime with what was available, and I understood what he meant. Like, the hope was that some of the Moose players in the AHL were going to be ready to go this season, and that's not what happened. Okay, it's just not what happened. And you want to, develop players carefully in certain ways, and sometimes you don't just want to like throw them up, okay, without them being prepared for certain things. Now, it does happen in the NHL. A guy will come up from the farm team because there's injuries or something like that. But I mean, it makes sense to me. He made decisions based on covering spots just for this year, this season, until, right, some of the guys in the farm team were ready enough to come up and stay up. So that's called a one-way contract. So I understand. I don't think he made mistakes. Okay, no one could have known. Okay, no one could have known. And the one thing I can't say that maybe he should have at least put out a public statement, sooner than waiting for the, regular mid-season GM press availability, just to, comfort some people and let some people know, okay, you may not see what I do. See, this is the point. You guys don't see what he does every day. And I don't think that he's like sitting around, fucking off at the golf club and not giving a shit. I mean, I disagree with you all on that. A lot of people, apparently. I mean, Mike McIntyre had, a little bit of time at one point to talk to him, and Mike McIntyre, you know, did mention that he said, well, he's always looking. Well, most GMs and their staff usually are. Okay. But because this was an Olympic year, first place, and compressed, and things that, for 3 years don't, or yeah, you know what I'm saying, during non-Olympic years don't really affect the NHL season. But in this case, the Olympics, yes, they do. So it's a little bit of a different kind of year anyway. And because of a serious scoring drought that seemed to happen to like several players at the same time, and the beginning of a losing streak, which has been very difficult for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. The one thing that maybe he should have thought to do to let the fans and the press know, I mean, maybe put like a 5 minute video of him saying, okay, clearly we are underperforming, and when decisions were made in the summer, we did not foresee at all that we would have so many players, especially veteran players, uh, in a slump, slump, and scoring droughts, and especially not for this long. So we are looking at waivers. We look around to see if there's any trades, and we check the Moose and assess the Moose players all the time. And clearly we know this is not acceptable hockey product, and we are approaching it from all angles possible. Okay, so maybe it's the only one thing I could say. It probably would have been a much better idea if he would have made a public statement prior to just waiting to do the regular mid-season. And he did the regular mid-season. Yes, it is hard. And, now I can say we may have some Moose players who, could possibly come up and make a difference. But you do have to also remember a lot of it's the mental game. And, you know, veterans and these guys, it's just, you all assume everything is bullshit. And I disagree. Not you all, but there's a lot of people. It's all just BS, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't see bullshit coming out of Kevin Cheveldayoff. Trust me. I walk around people all day and like, yeah, I know you're bullshitting me, and later find out, yeah, I know. Right. I don't see bullshit coming out of Kevin Cheveldayoff. And you can't go back a year and claim that a GM made all these mistakes. It's just like, what the hell do you people know? I mean, clearly he was looking at a team that was the President's Trophy winners, who did play to the second round of the playoffs, and who had the MVP, the league MVP, on their team. And they did what he thought he could do in order to just like hold places and sign some people for a year who he thought could be, generate scoring or be goal scorers. And I got to be honest, I mean, I've seen Nyquist, some of these guys, I know what their games are like. So, I mean, I mean, that definitely was something that nobody expected, that, right, it would be like this. And so, those of you saying Kevin Cheveldayoff made mistakes, the only thing I think that he did, that, he neglected to understand that this is an Olympic year. So certain things are, it complicates the season. Okay. So it's not like a regular season. And the fact that, we're starting to see goal scoring droughts and guys slumping. And yeah, I think that is the one thing he really should have taken the time to do. And as for a plan, it's like, I know they have a hockey vision. And he was on the plan, and there's still the plan. Okay? I don't know what you all are expecting to hear, but of course there's a plan. And he was, getting some people in for 1 year to help hold those spaces, essentially, for guys in the Moose who weren't quite ready in the summertime to come up. Okay? So, I mean, I have no issue with the decisions he made, because he was looking at a team who everyone in the NHL thought we're going to make the playoffs and there would be no question. Okay? So, whatever. You guys can call it bullshit, and I'm just, call you stubborn people who refuse to actually listen properly and assess what he's saying. I That is the only mistake that I think Mr. Shoveldayoff made, was waiting for so long to make address the fans and the press. It's not a typical year. So, making a statement earlier and, comforting people and letting them know, yes, clearly this is, you know, unacceptable hockey product, and we're looking at every single thing we can look at. And some of the players in the Moose, they're just not ready yet, and the trades are tight this year. Sometimes trades will, happen a little bit later, but there is also, with the trade, yes, the freeze, the Olympic freeze. So this is a very different kind of NHL year in the first place. But no, I don't agree that he made mistakes. I mean, you guys, who are you people? I'm trying to say this point blank. I know I am not the GM of an NHL franchise, and they have certain things they do, and they do try to, you know, keep some of these things out of the public because, generally it may not be any of your business. But I know there's a plan, and clearly plans need to be adjusted. And, I'm sure that there might be a couple guys in the Moose who would, be all right coming up, but they're still going to make mistakes. They're still going to look young. They're going to feel the pressure. They're going to need extra support. Okay? I don't really want the team, especially like the five guys who are consistently scoring and getting points, uh, to like get injured or push so hard that, yeah, they just exhaust themselves, to be honest. But he also did say, okay, um, accountability starts with him and goes down through the thing to a man. And he means people, man and woman, all right? So he said, and I'm sure he's looking. I'm sure he's just as surprised as everybody else. You pick a guy like Nyquist, you pick a guy, yes, and Cole Perfetti. I mean, last year, you understand? He didn't make mistakes. I I don't wear. I don't know why some people think for some reason you don't have anywhere near the kind of information that Mr. Cheveldayoff has, and they are trying to develop players, and a lot of them are in the Moose. But if your AHL players aren't ready for something, you do have to consider, one, their mental health, and two, their physical health, and three, will it do more damage to their game to put them up in a situation like this? I mean, physically, they might be able to handle it, but mentally, that's a whole different story, ladies and gentlemen, in the National Hockey League. And clearly, you don't want to recognize this, a lot of you. You don't want to think about it. But you really should, because it's all part of the game. And I am a sports psychologist. So I think I know better than some. And, that is also the issue. It's not just about the physical stuff you can see with the eyes, people. Okay? Some of these guys in the AHL might be, quick with physical things and good and seems to have it. But the AHL pressure is very much different from the NHL pressure, especially in a season like this. And, the scouts, the guys, the coaches, GM, they all have to, converse and consider, will this be, too detrimental to a younger guy on the Moose who's still developing if we put them in this situation? So I know you don't really care about the players as human beings, is what I'm saying to some of you. And even a lot of you have been NHL style for a while with other teams, and I am saying that to everybody, including press. Because physically, some of these guys in the Moose, sure, but that's only a portion of the game, ladies and gentlemen. Which is another reason that I wanted, uh, you know, Hellbutt to stop and take a little break. Okay, because one, no franchise, no fans, no press should ever expect a goalie to carry the whole load, for one thing, and keep playing in consecutive games. And also, that's seven, like before Comrie went back in, that was 7 losses that the MVP of the entire league just had to go through. And just a really good idea to let him have a couple days, rethink, regroup, get his mental game, still focused on, we can win, but and plus physical. Okay, like he definitely was playing more games consecutively than he ever has. And that also causes a situation called a cold goalie. And a cold goalie is not some figment of imagination, and it's not a lie, and it's not bullshit. So please don't anybody be trying to accuse me of lying to you. Okay? Yes, you always want to have your backup goalie, play a certain number of games and have like a regular schedule, kind of. It's going to be based on what your starting goalie kind of needs, but, in danger of overplaying, Hellbutt, and it still is, it still dings you. With 7 games, he's the MVP of the league. Okay, so, also to kind of like, regroup mentally. But if your backup, if your starting goalie gets injured, your backup has to, pick up, rise to the occasion. And everything that I saw of Eric Comrie, right, he sure did. But he went in cold. So you guys who are angry and calling everything bullshit, you're basically accusing people of lying to you. And it's not bullshit. And I am coming to you as a sports psychologist. And I'm used to the dudes, and I've listened to so many men in so many different positions in the National Hockey League. I kind of get it. And I was getting a little bit concerned about Helva, and I really wanted him to take a seat. And to be honest with you, if I was Coach Arnie, if I didn't see like a little bit of, Eric Comrie trying to show off the waffle a little bit, which means like maybe you should, if he was not indicating to the bench, maybe you should take me out. Well, then you have you put your faith on your good backup goalie, and you just let him, ride it out with the rest of the team, and letting him know you have, confidence in him as a goalie, and and don't keep dragging Helva into it. He's having some difficulty too. His numbers are dropping. And imagine how hard it is for him. He's the VIP, the MVP for the entire National Hockey League, and he's had to go through these losing streaks with the team. And clearly, after last night's Vegas game, right, you could tell he was frustrated. There were things going on, emotional things, and this is another reason why sometimes you let you know, the goalie who's sitting on the bench or the chair or the stool, okay, just have the night off. Now I know you all don't care about that because you all think you know so much better than everybody, and that's just not the case. So I can understand why people ignore me, because when somebody does tell you the truth and understands the game and the fact that there's mental aspects to it, it's not just physical. I don't care how good some of the guys look in certain situations, it's how are they going to be able to handle full NHL pressure. Which is why I am going to say this. I don't care what any of you think. You can say what you want and you can believe what you're, and it doesn't even matter if I get proved right or wrong. I know for a fact I am going to be, yes, very, very protective and speak up about the goalies in the system for the Winnipeg Jets. In no way is it appropriate thinking that either Millie or Divvy should come up and play right now. That is absolutely not hockey smart. It is unacceptable. And you might not even care about them as human beings, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because if I were consulting on another team, an opposing team, and I saw that the Jets put up Millie or Divvy, I would be telling them, oh, fresh meat. Yeah. In the cartoon world, it would be like, like you just see them like, wow, their eyes get real big and they start drooling and, sharpening their knife. Welcome to the National Hockey League, man. This is how it is. And I would consult with any other team and say, oh, okay, well, here's what you need to do. I mean, bump into them a lot, pat them on the head, right, get all up on them, big style, chirp them. And if you're going to, be out front of them blocking, yeah, make sure you put your entire ass right in front of their face. Because they're going to do every single thing to test that goalie out. And in this situation, for the sake of Millie and Divvy, that would be so highly inappropriate and absolutely wrong from a mental game perspective that I'm very, very glad that many of you are not Mr. Shoveldayoff or Coach Arnie or, people who work for the Winnipeg Jets, including some press. And I'm talking to you as a sports psychologist. And I think Coach was right to put in Conway because he's also a goalie. And his numbers, okay, are excusable given the situation, his save percentage. And if I were scouting or if I were looking, I would know to kind of overlook his save percentage, quite frankly. Because he's a stable goalie, he's a stable backup. In the locker room, he's fun, he's funny. People, he makes people laugh. He's got a really good attitude. He doesn't get too down. I'm sure he gets a little. I mean, yeah, of course, it can happen. But I don't think he's a piece of trash that the Winnipeg Jets should just throw away. So I'm a little more than just a fan. And I am going to keep coming at people if you all think you know better. Okay, like the fact that you know, Coach uh, Arneal put Hellbeck in. I mean, that was the right hockey smart decision for all concerned, including Mr. Hellbeck, Mr. Comrie, and the rest of the team. And, you know, clearly there wasn't any indication from the crease to the bench that Comrie felt he should be pulled, because sometimes, you know, a goalie will kind of, you know, I'm not doing it right. You might, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes they just feel it slipping away, and occasionally they will. That's called waffles up, right? Well, there was no indication of that, and so he just let Comrie battle it out with the rest of his teammates who are slumping. And I cannot honestly say that Mr. Cheveldayoff made mistakes, and neither can you guys. And accountability, right? That's on everybody. And they're looking, I mean, looking at ways. But it is unwise sometimes to pull someone up from your farm team and put them in that kind of pressure, because they may be ready physically, but they aren't ready mentally. And they do have to look out for the mental health of players. And while I know a lot of you don't seem to really care about that and the fact they're humans and whatever else, I do. And I'm not telling you BS. Please don't accuse me of being a liar. And you're accusing people of being liars. And some of the plan really is none of your business. But, I mean, you know the plan? Play the defensive hockey the right way. And obviously, the plan was to get some of the Moose up to the Jets. They just weren't quite ready. So essentially, you can look at it like the 1 year guys, okay, are basically holding spots for the guys in the farm team. All right. So I I mean, I honestly just, it is getting ridiculous. Mr. Comer is not a piece of trash, and he's doing just fine in the net. And you know, Mr. Hellebuck, I know he wants to play. I mean, I'd want to play, but yes, for his good, mental health wise and physically, the more he's in, you know, the higher chance of injury. And, you know, goalies on a sort of regular schedule and in a certain rhythm tend to do better. And it is difficult for goalies because they're not the ones responsible for scoring goals. I mean, anyone who thinks that Mr. Mealy and Divvy coming up at this point in the hockey season to replace Mr. Eric Comrie, are you sure you're not fans of another team or working for another club? I'm going to be very, very protective of the goalies in the Jet system. Mr. Comrie doesn't deserve to be thought of as a piece of trash you can just throw away because he had a bad game. And part of that was because he went in cold. He's right. He was back up for a little too long and trying to, get himself together. Right. So many of you could not play these positions or do what these guys do. Now, granted, I mean, maybe Chevy's job is a little more at question now than it has been, but I'm not the kind of person who's telling anybody I think he made mistakes, other than he really should have addressed the public sooner. And of course, there's a plan. And you all know what that plan is: to play the Jets kind of hockey and continue to play and then start scoring. And yes, of course. I mean, the franchise still wants to go to the playoffs. Because of certain things that have happened this year, it just may not be this year. But yes, they are developing players. Like, you know, there's people just, I get online and I'm just like, maybe you guys need therapists. Maybe you guys are the ones that need therapists. Maybe you guys need to take some air quote fans some time away from the game. I mean, if you want to play chicken with an NHL franchise, like, okay, well, we're not going to buy tickets and we're not going to re-up our season tickets. You're losing out on ice hockey, is what you're losing out on. Remember that when you watch an NHL game, either live or wherever from TV or internet, you are watching two NHL teams play ice hockey. You get to experience National Hockey League ice hockey. So, say what you want. I don't agree that Mr. Sheffield-Dayoff has made a bunch of mistakes. You know, he has been a GM for a while, but there's been GMs who also have been in 2015, 23, right? And maybe at this point, yeah, well, his job might be more at question. The other thing is that, it isn't Scott Arniel's ultimate decision. The coach of the Winnipeg Jets, like hockey affectionately named Arnie, okay, is not the one who is ultimately responsible for sending guys down to the Farm League, which is the Moose AHL team, or sending guys up from the Moose to the Jets. So if you're gonna get mad, at least get mad at the right person. Coach Arniel might have some say and might, communicate, well, I mean, maybe we should, maybe I need, a couple guys. Okay, the GM and the coach talk to each other. Okay, some clubs are set up a little different, and some coaches, they might have, a certain amount of tenure, and they might be able to say such and such, and GM just kind of does it because there's a trust. I'm not sensing distrust. But the other thing that can happen to a team that plays on ice, and it does actually start happening on NHL ice, is if there are serious rifts or divides or issues with management. And a really good example that I can think of is Martin St. Louis when he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Discussed what it was like being a player when they had this little stretch of time where they had the wrong kind of owner and manager before Mr. Vinnick bought the team. And the way he explained it is like it affected our game badly. I mean, you just sometimes don't even want to come in and play, which is sad. I mean, he was very descriptive about what it can do to an ice hockey team on ice. I've listened to NHL players for years and years and years, and some AHL players and coaches from every division, every different market, and goalies. I've read books written by people who actually did it for a living, and I am a sports psychologist, and I disagree with a lot of people. I am a little concerned about Connor Hellebuck, but I'm not going to shut up and stop being, the goalie wall that I am when it comes to certain things, of being highly protective of Millie and Divvy at this point. You understand? If this team were more stable, if this team did not have the same kind of scoring woes and the kind of defensive breakdowns that they've been having, right? One of them might here and there. You understand? But a lot of you are the unrealistic ones. And I got all day long kind of patience. Because, like I said, they're, people who have, loved ice hockey since they were kids and, for 20, 30 years. And all of us, no matter which team, we've gone through stretches of time where teams not making the playoffs or, big plans, just like the Edmonton Oilers, big plans, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, McJesus, is that what people call him? I know, that's why I warned goalies about McDavid. Like, look out, everybody. Right. And Colorado, I mean, they're like, streaking through the NHL. But I can assure you, when McKenna and Landeskog first got on that team, they were hovering around the lower half of the NHL for a while before they started learning how to climb up the standings ladder. But the Colorado fans, they still went. I know, I talked to some of them. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like they weren't getting frustrated, but they stuck with the team. And look what their team is doing now. So, NHL Jets still looking to get into the playoffs. I would love them to start going streaking through the NHL personally, just to shut down some pie holes, to be honest. But right, two players that I was, kind of watching and listening to, and yeah, Perfetti. Well, now I'm feeling, yeah, I'm sure he's feeling better, and it seemed to work out with Taze. By the way, Jonathan Taze got a point, so everybody, and I kept saying, use the force, Luke, use the force, Luke son, use the force. Luke used the force and he scored a goal. Okay. And so did Perfetti. And to be honest with you, it looked like he had plenty of time. So that was good news. That was good news. So maybe Perfetti and Velarde and Jonathan Taze will, maybe we found a good matchup. But it is absolutely wrong thinking in every way to even mention trying to put Millie Higgity up there. I mean, if there's injury, understood. It's not shielding them, it's developing them properly. This would be the absolute worst time for a schmelty goalie to have to go up there and hang out. Because, like I said, if I were consulting for another team, some of these guys in the league, they already know. Nobody needs to tell them. It's like, ha, fresh meat. Every single thing they could think to do to that goalie, they would do. And that's something that Millie and Divvy need to be prepared for. And they should be allowed to take their time properly so that they can develop to be good NHL goalies. So I disagree with a large portion. And I understand you want to just ignore me. But I'm speaking some hockey truth here. And I am a sports psychologist. So I do know better. And there's some guys down on the farm physically maybe ready to go, but mentally maybe not. there's a plan. The plan's being adjusted. Looking around to see maybe we can find one in the NHL who could handle the mental aspect of being on a 32nd team in the NHL. But that is the benefit of some of these veterans as well. It doesn't ding them as hard as it can ding some newbies. And they don't feel the pressure the same way. And of course it sucks. But to say that they're not putting in effort is just not true. I mean, yeah, some mistakes that happen, I mean, like they're big mistakes. Okay, they're really good with some small stuff, but right, but some of that stuff is actually slowing down. I know Jonathan T's got a penalty first period, but we did penalty kill it. And I can easily, knowing how the position of goaltender works and knowing how other teams work, easily overlook Mr. Comrie's save percentage number because of just the situation. So I don't think Chevy's made tons of mistakes. But I was a little concerned about Perfetti and yeah, I mean Hellbuck too. I mean, it's got to be difficult, even though I'm sure he's professional going to play. But yeah, when you go through a 7-game losing streak and your people are like clinging to you like, the only savior alive who can keep this team going, that's pressure personified. And then he's the MVP of the entire league and he's got to go through this. I mean, he had to let out some stuff yesterday. It's another reason why you switch back and forth with your backup and your starting goalie a little more, a little more frequency, getting Mr. Hellbuck a little bit of mental health day and Comrie not to get cold. I mean, heaven forbid Hellbuck get injured. You guys, run around with like hating and getting angry all day long, and I'm just trying to tell some of you, some of these guys might need a sports psychologist, but some of you fans and press, you might need a therapist or some psychologist too. So I know at this point Chevy's job corps, I'm sure it's more at stake, and maybe a thorough look through the entirety of the franchise is necessary. But getting rid of a coach right now, that's not wise. And I totally agreed. Like when I was watching the game, the thing about not putting Jonathan Taze in to take a face off after DeMilo got a penalty. I was wondering that myself, and I heard the commentator. I mean, I heard but after practice, I was watching the post game interviews with the coach, and one of the press did ask him, "Why didn't you put Jonathan Taze in? Because that was a very important face-off to win. You put Barron in." Well, he answered it, and good enough, okay? Because Barron was taking face-offs on that side during that game, and JT was taking face-offs on this side. So it was Barron's side. Okay, and he's trying to keep things consistent. So, okay, that makes sense. Coach keeping it consistent. Putting in Barron then makes sense. So, I don't have some great rants about certain things. The only mistake I think Shovel Dayoff has made that I know of, because what do you guys know about Kevin Shovel Dayoff's day anyway? mean, you have private investigators following him. The only mistake I think he made was not addressing the public sooner, because it is an Olympic year and it does affect the league, and because no one expected the guys to be slumping together all at the same time. And so being a little more open and a little more comforting, giving a little bit more indication. Clearly he knows, okay? Like, you can actually assume that from some GMs. And I would think that since Chevaldale's been there for 15 years, some of you could have just actually understood, especially if you read Mike McIntyre's little mini interview. Says he's always looking. Well, I believe him. What about Cheveldayoff is giving you the impression that he's just lying through his teeth? I am a sports psychologist. So, go Jets, go. Thumbs up to Perfetti, too. Finally got one in. And yeah, I know. Good thoughts, healing thoughts out to Mr. Hayden Fleury. I know that really kind of sucks. I mean, the guy just got back in action, and then this happens. But it is another reason why I was saying, player safety reasons, officials, when guys are back there, and especially when they're closer contact, if a dude sees your numbers and tries to ram you into the boards every single time, each and every single time, no matter what team or who it is, that is a penalty. Okay, last night, that was, yes, that was not somebody trying to push him into the boards. And right, I mean, he just slid and he hit hard. And clearly, when a player's bleeding and like they hit their back and their neck, and yeah, that's his legs went out really quickly. I think that was the biggest issue, because that could mean you have stretched nerves, which can be damaged. That could mean you're anywhere from up front here to back here could have been injured, and possibly even the neck, but in the front of the neck, not the back. So, I mean, I'm glad they got him off the ice, and I hear that he's, speaking and talking and all that. So that's good news, but that's scary, and that's why I'm saying every single official should blow the whistle, no matter what team, or what players are playing, when you're close contact and someone, rams you into the board face first, because shit like that can happen. All right, so, right, go Jets, go.